Hello, I am Keith Jenkins. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this video, and that's fine because this video is not for everyone. But for those who crave honest knowledge, you cannot observe new knowledge using the old mind frame of thought. It's just like a scripture that says, you don't take new wine and put it into old bottles. So you have to start over fresh, which means you have to forget about what you were taught as a child. You have to empty all that stuff out of your mind, which is going to be hard to do in a lot of cases for some people. But you have to start over with a fresh mind, reading information for yourself, getting your own understanding, not thinking with the mind frame of your church, not thinking with the mind frame of your pastor, not thinking with the mind frame of your fraternity or your friends or parents. You have to learn how to think for you. And when I started thinking for me, it singled me out away from everybody. I mean, people gonna say you weird, people gonna say you crazy, people gonna say there's something wrong with you, when it's actually not something wrong with you, it's something wrong with them. When I look at creation and the gaps that's in the Bible, because again, if you look at the word revised means altered. So when you're looking at this altered Bible, there are many gaps in between each one of those scriptures. So you're basically reading a summary of an entire deal that was once there that's not there anymore. And for people that's not taught this, they think, well, the Bible is complete, this is all that you need, when there's a lot of information that's left out. And the only way that these things are found is the individual have to have enough love and respect for their creator to want to learn these things, to want to go out and find, what is it that was taken away from you? What is it that certain people might have had an agenda of, who felt the only way they can carry this agenda out is they gotta hide certain knowledge to control people's minds. So you can't give a person just a full lie. They gotta give you some truth to make the lie stick. So the scripture, they gave us some truth that was watered down with a few lies that's in it. And a lot of people don't want to accept that, but I'm going to break down to you where heaven is, where hell is. I'm going to break down to you where you are in creation and where you are in the Bible / Torah / Quran. If you go all the way back before earth, in the heavens, there is an angel by the name of Samyaza Aziel. And this is the head of the fallen angels. And where you can find this knowledge at is, you gotta pick up the books of Adam and Eve, the Forgotten Books of Eden is what it's called. And Adam and Eve consist of 2 books. And what you will learn is, and actually this is in Enoch too, so you got to go back to the books of Enoch, and you will see the head of the fallen angels, whose name was Samyaza Aziel. And the Most High created Samyaza with his own mind, gave him free will of thought. All of the other angels was made with perfection, even Lucifer. So no, Lucifer is not the head of the fallen angels, as the lie has been told. I'm not saying that he's a good dude either, because I'm going to get into that in just a second. But the Most High created this angel named Samyaza Aziel. And it says that Samyaza created, he conceived this thought in his head, that he would have equal rank power with Yah in heaven. And it says that the Most High created his knowledge that was quicker than wisdom, it says, who was the most beautiful of all that the Most High created. And it says this angel, Samyaza, Azazel, after he conceived this thought that he would have equal rank power with Yah, it says that he deceived Lucifer. And him and Lucifer went and deceived other angels, that they would wage a war in the heavens and overthrow the throne. Now, when you start talking about the power of a creator, now think about it. You done deceived a large number, a third of the angels, that they would wage this war in heaven. And from the scriptures that I've read, the Most High told one angel, Michael, just one, said, go throw Samyaza, Lucifer, and their host out of the heavens. It didn't say go round up some other angels. He told Michael by himself, go kick them out of here. And it says that he threw Lucifer and the other host that Lucifer deceived out, and they was flying below the bottomless. And it says that he told Michael to take Samyaza, Azazel, down to the earth. And it said, put a crack in the earth, chain Samyaza, Azazel down, hand and foot, and hurl pointed stones over him, and that he would be there waiting on judgment day in darkness, that he would suffer the hunger, thirst, cold of the winter, severe heat of the winter, summer, just waiting on judgment day. I feel like I got to sneeze. So when you start seeing Illuminatists and different cult groups with these pyramids, this is what this point symbolizes to them, where to me it symbolizes something else. And so you got Samyaza, Lucifer, and his host that's thrown out of the heavens. Now, we get into the creation of earth. Before Michael threw Samyaza and Lucifer out, it says the Most High, the Spirit of Yah, moved upon the face of the deep, and it says separated waters up high from waters that was below. And it says, and if you look at the, when I'm telling you there is missing information, in the first 10 scriptures of Genesis, this is how much information is missing. Now, when the Most High, when the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the deep and separated waters up high from waters below, down here below of all creation, it says he called hard rock up out of the water below, and called it, he called dry land up out of the water and called it earth. Not something spinning way up in what these European atheist scientists call space. It says that he called dry land up out of the water down here below and called this earth. And if you look at the sun, right in the first 10 scriptures of Genesis, the bottom star, the sun, going all the way up, not to the sky, but to the water, this blue surface that you see, he called in one spot. The water up high from down here below, from the sun going up to the water up high, is the firmament, the first of the 10 levels of the heavens. So no, there is no such thing as space. You have the heavens above the earth and the earth beneath the heavens, in between water. And so when we start talking about, science and all this stuff, this is why the Catholic Church took the book of Enoch out, because it had the motion of the moon, the gates that it goes through throughout the seasons, the sun. They made a theory called science out of it. So those who portray atheism, they actually believe in God, but they don't believe in the correct God. They chose Lucifer, who's the blesser of corrupt riches. Some people choose to have their heaven on earth because they're not going, and that's the decision that they personally made. And so they have to deceive other people to keep their functions going. So before we get into that, so now you got the fallen angels that's kicked down. You've got Samyaza that's chained up with pointed stones over him in constant darkness. They knew that Yah was going to create life on earth. And so Lucifer, when you get into the books of Enoch, it tells you Lucifer and the angels with Lucifer, they swore to Samyaza that they would carry out every corruption to destroy man that Yah was creating. They came from eternity. They never knew that this earth had days, times, seasons, months, years. They did not know that death was going to befall them down here on earth because they came from eternity. And it was told to them that they would not touch the daughters of man. So if you in the flesh, after you done got kicked out of your spiritual estate, you're going to have the same emotions that man have. They had sexual emotions, but they were not permitted to touch women. And before you got the world that's repopulated, now if you a bunch of angels, males, and you got the same affection as the human, you have no choice but to have sex with each other. This was the curse of homosexuality. This is why the Most High spoke against it, because it was a curse not to be able to enjoy the pleasure of a woman because you are cursed. That was the curse of Lucifer and the fallen angels. This is what the curse of homosexuality was. I can't help what society has made it in today's time, but this is what the curse of homosexuality was. So now, when you get the Most High who creates Adam, it tells you that he took a rib from Adam and created a woman. Now, if we got two sets of ribs and he took one rib, so obviously we must have had 4 lungs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The woman got 2. We must have had 4 sets of rib cages because the woman has 2. We got 2. So there's a lot of things that people are not thinking about. So how do we get, according, now, if you look at the Bible that I'm telling you has been altered and watered down, it only tells you in the Bible that Adam and Eve had 3 sons. So many people are quick to say 2 because, again, they don't even read. But in their Bible, it says that Adam and Eve had 3 sons. They had Cain, Abel, and then a son named Seth. But before we get into Seth, Adam and Eve gave birth to Cain, who was born with a twin sister. Oh, yes. And 2.5 years later, Abel is born with a twin sister. So as time has gone by and the boys have grown up, I think Cain was 17 and a half when he killed Abel. But the way the story went is Abel was obedient to his parents, and the Most High honored Abel's obedience. So when it says that Abel was the type of individual, if he saw Adam out in the field making a sacrifice to the Most High, Abel would go out there, but more than trying to make a sacrifice, he would put his entire soul, his entire spirit into it, which is how he honored the Most High. And the Most High blessed him with favor from Adam. And in the beginning of creation, as you know, they are, learning how to make different things, Abel was a little bit more well-rounded, and Cain became jealous of that. So it came down to the time that Adam was getting ready to wed the boys. Again, this is creation. You got 2 boys, you got 2 girls. And so the Most High, I guess in the scripture that's where it's not written, explained to Adam and Eve how they would reproduce. And it says when Adam got ready to wed Abel to Cain's sister, Cain got jealous of that. And I don't know if this is true what I'm fixing to say, because I haven't read it, but from the teachers that taught me, they said that the jealousy came because Cain's sister was very beautiful and Abel's sister was not so beautiful. And Cain became jealous of you already showing Abel more favor than me and X, Y, and Z, and now you want to give him my twin. And he got jealous, so Lucifer comes along and tells Cain, start whispering in his ear, and how he would be more of a father figure to Cain, that God hating, his parents don't love him, they show more favor to Abel. And he showed Cain an illusion of how he would kill his brother to get favor back with Adam and Eve. So after this deceitful vision has been shown to Cain, it says that Cain and Abel, it says that Cain came to Abel and lied and told him about this beautiful pasture that had this gorgeous scenic view. And Abel was all off into scenic views. They was over there in the mountains area, just able to look out and see the beauty of creation. This was Abel's lifestyle of what he enjoyed. And so Cain deceived him. And it says the next day they went out. They got so far out there, it says that Cain was walking slightly behind Abel and just sweet talking him. And then Abel said, well, Cain, where's these things that you said that would be here? And Cain said, just a little farther down, just a little farther down. And it says that Cain picked up a staff-like stick, rod, which would be a stick, and struck Abel over the back of his head. And it says, with such a blow, Abel fell to the ground and knew then what Cain's intention was, and said to him, if you hate me this much, why don't you just go ahead and kill me? And without thought, Cain killed his brother, and it said, beat him, mingled, and played in his blood. And when Cain went, now this part you've heard, but you can't find it in the Bible. This is where it comes from. Cain went to go bury Abel. And it says the ground threw him up. Cain tried to bury Abel again. and the ground threw him up. And the third time that Cain tried to bury Abel and the ground threw him up, sudden fear came over him. And he got so scared he took off running. And by the time he almost gets back home, Yah calls down, Cain, where's your brother? He said, I don't know, I haven't seen him. He said, Cain, where is your brother? And Cain lied and said, I don't know. And according to the scripture, it says Cain, who was hard-hearted, who cursed and beat his mother, who was such a rebellious child. It says out of all the evil that he's done, even cursing God, the Most High was willing to forgive him only if he had repented of what he did and had just been honest and asked him one more time. Said, Cain, where is your brother? Cain said, I don't know. He said, well, Cain, why are you in fear? Why are you not in your first estate? He said, I know where your brother is. You killed him and you tried to bury him. And he said the reason the ground threw him up the first time is because he was not at creation. Only Adam was. The reason the ground threw him up the second time is so that that body would bear witness against him. And the third time the ground threw him up is because the Most High said, the blood of the righteous is crying out to me, and I have placed a mark upon you, so that if any man finds you, they will kill you. And the Most High repented out of his anger and said, should man find you, they won't kill you. Now remember, ain't no other people in the earth right now. This is what was told to Cain. So when Cain gets back, he told his twin what he had done. She went and told Adam and Eve, and they went out and got his body and brought him back and said they wept for 40 days and 40 nights. And while they were weeping, Cain took his sister and fled down the mountain. And it says the Most High cut them off with a blaze, where Cain could not get back up the mountain because of the heat. Where he was cut off, he would never get back up this mountain. It says that Adam and Eve, they separated for 7 years. Then they got back together and they gave birth to a son named Seth. And Seth is who was wedded to to Abel's sister twin. And that's where you get Methuselah, Enoch, Noah, and all of those that's on this mountain now. Just like Adam and Eve was told, I give you all of these fruits, all these trees, just do not eat from this one tree. And Adam and Eve ate from the tree. They came out of their spiritual into this flesh, where they now hunger, they now thirst, because they didn't hunger. It wasn't a sun or for it to be daylight. It was no such thing as day and night in the garden. That's just like if you go to Walmart, Target, or somewhere. Let's say you go to Burger King or something. You might just want a cheeseburger. You go in there for a cheeseburger. You know what? Man, let me get me a milkshake. Man, let me get me this. Let me get that. You just start wanting stuff. So Adam and Eve was blessed in the garden to smell the fruit, the sweet smell of the most purest fruit that it was. And they only put in their mouth what they wanted as they wanted. They didn't hunger. It wasn't no hunger and thirst. They was in the garden. It was eternity. They was in heaven. And it says that while they was in that estate, they could look into the heavens from where they were at the bottom of the heavens in the garden. And it says that they could look and see the angels who kept constant worship in this area. They was able to see certain things. And it says that when they got kicked out, they could no longer see the things that they saw. And they became flesh. They hungered. They thirst. They noticed they was naked. This is what the curse was to them. So when we start looking at Seth, the rule that was given to Seth, I give you all this land. And however big this mountain was, we don't know, because that was before the flood. And, you know, you got a lot of cities that's under waters in different places. This is why you see these atheist scientists steady finding these cities that's underwater. Man, we way up on sea level. Ain't no telling how far down this place goes that's now covered up with water. And all these cities that was built back then, they covered up with water now. This is why they find these cities, because of this flood that happened that atheists don't want to accept because they got their own agenda. But it says as time went by, now down here amongst Cain's children, this is where the fallen angels got cast down to when they got cast down. Lucifer and his host was down here with Cain's seed. And it says that these fallen angels that came down, now think about it, you came from the heavens, you know some stuff that's secret, some spiritual stuff here that man didn't know, Adam and Eve didn't know. And so it says that these fallen angels, one taught his daughters how to have sex, one taught his sons how to make breastplates for war, one taught the writing system, one taught X, Y, and Z, one taught the mixing of roots and chemicals, one taught mathematics, one taught the body structure. And they wrote all of these doctrines on walls. One taught enchantments, how to make different symbols and quote different words and make different things happen. All this stuff was on walls that they wrote, that they carved in. And amongst Cain's children, it says Lucifer went to go dwell inside of a man named Aton and taught him how to bring strong drink up out of corn, how to make different dyes. This dude know how to do magic now. This is Lucifer doing this stuff. Just like Christ came in the flesh years later, first Lucifer came in. And this is the stuff that he taught along with what these fallen angels / demons wrote on walls. So, again, they were not supposed to touch the daughters of man. Even though Cain did evil, it says Cain had children and prolonged quickly. And Lucifer and his host thought that they would choose for themselves wives. And when you start getting into a book that was taken out called the Kaber Nagast, it's an Ethiopian book. It describes how, and if you've ever seen the movie Alien that came out in the 80s, how the alien came busting out of people's stomach and stuff, these fallen angels did not, when they had sex with intercourse with the woman and impregnated her, the child didn't come from the womb. It describes these children came bursting out of the woman's stomach and the woman died. And the child grew statues high as huge giants. Some of them was deformed, had 2 heads. Some of them had multiple arms. Some of them came out straight, looking like just regular humans. But they were white in the flesh. I'm not saying this is where white humans came from. But they were lepers in the flesh. So when you start getting back into Seth and his children, it tells you in Enoch 105, Noah, even though his fathers was black, even though Adam and Eve was black, even though Noah's children was black, it says Noah was born reddish white. And it says his father was afraid of him when he was born. And it says that when Noah was born, he spoke righteous. He was talking. And it says when he opened his eyes, it lit up the room like the sun. And because he was white in his flesh, it says, and his father flew out of the house, which means he took off running. And it says he ran to his father's house and said, I have begotten a son, not like unto us, for he resembles the sons, the fallen sons of God. So if he's reddish white and he resembles these demons, what color are these demons? They white. Caucasian people are not going to teach you that because it would identify them. But again, that's not where today's Caucasians came from. So we know what happened in Noah's day. The great flood happened. But before that flood happened, it says Lucifer taught a ton how to make instruments. And it says when he blew the flute, or this horn that he created, and made the snake start doing this, he started playing it in front of people and saw that it made people dance. Then it says he taught a ton how to make different dyes and different silks to dress upon the woman, to expose her shape. And it says when they would start to rally, now again it's told the Seth children, do not go down this mountain. And it says that when they started to rally, the sons of Seth would hear them rallying. And it says that Lucifer somehow made the daughters of Cain ravishingly gorgeous to the eyes of the sons of Seth. That's just like in today's time, you got these women with fake titties, silicone, tight dresses made to look ravishingly gorgeous to men and make men just like, oh my goodness. But it's all fake. It's all an illusion. They fucking demons. I'm not talking about white people in today's time because they not that same bloodline, but I'm gonna explain to you how it happened. So it says Seth children started coming down the mountain. And over time, so many of them started going down. The Most High said he's gonna have to destroy this. So he called Enoch up. At the same time, it was commanded for Noah to build the ark. And when Noah completed the ark, it says, and Enoch at this time came back with books that was written by the Most High, Yah. And then Yah commanded Enoch to write down certain other things. And it says that when Enoch went up, he was shown where the righteous go, where the false prophets that would be on the earth would go, and where evil people would go. This is what Enoch was shown. This was what was in books. And Enoch was taught how to read, how to write, and he brought these books back down and instructed Noah and his sons on what these books were. And when the Most High called Enoch back up, it began to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. All of Cain's children, Lucifer, the fallen angels, all of them have been killed now with the flood. There is no such thing as the fallen angels. A few of them survived. None of them survived. So how did evil come back into the world? Now, with the books that Adam and Eve, with the books that Noah and his sons and their wives were instructed on. Now, this is the time Adam is dead now. But it was commanded for them to put the body of Adam on the ship. And where the ship settled, that's where Adam would be buried. And now that the world has started over, now remember, Noah is white, but his children is black. Noah's fathers before him were black. Eve was black. So when the ark settled at Mount Ararat, which is below Turkey, this is at the time men were living to see 800-900 years old, 1,000 years old, stuff like this. After the earth has repopulated, man has repopulated, and the water has receded, the writings that these fallen angels had left on these walls were still here. Noah, his sons, and the children that they've had all know how to read now. They have all been instructed on what these book of scriptures are that came from the heavens. They are all aware of this great evil that will exist. So, after time and man has repopulated, a group of men found these writings on the wall. And with what they were amazed by, they said, well, dang, let's try this stuff on a few people to see how it works. And when they saw how the evil, what these demons had on the wall, because they wrote with the same handwriting as the Most High, that they came from the heavens. These were the same writings that was in the books. So, when they started trying this stuff and saw how it worked on people, they said, well, we can't let just anybody know about this. We gotta keep this a secret amongst us. And so they started guarding that wall. And they said, after they had brought in a couple more guys that they knew that would be with them, and they all had this agreement that this is what we gonna do and this is how we gonna rule people, X, Y, and Z, they said, well, we gotta choose a leader amongst ourselves. Now I'm gonna tell you where the game Mortal Kombat came from, where the movie Bloodsport come from, the theory of it, where you start seeing these men, fighting it out for a championship or whatever. They said we must choose a leader amongst ourselves. So they all had a brotherly fight. Whoever would be the strongest would be the controller and ruler of this wall. And when the head guy won, the word was Pharaoh. He would be king, and only his sons under him would be the controllers of this wall. So as time has gone by, they built the pharaohs. They started building statues for each one of those fallen angels and said, These are the gods that give us our power. So when you start hearing Europeans talk about the gods of Egypt, these are the fallen angels whom the pharaohs considered gods. So you come down, the whole world starts off again from the flood black. They spoke one language until you get to the time of Nimrod, who was an evil king. He married his mother. Nimrod thought that he would build a tower and get into the heavens. And the Most High destroyed his creation. Well, when I say creation, I'm talking about the things that Nimrod created to try to build himself into the heavens. The Most High sent this windstorm down, and the angel that came through the storm was the changer of languages. And so nobody could understand what anybody's saying. Now everybody is one color. This is where the languages change. Each man and woman had to run off in clans of people of languages they could understand. So the mother can't communicate with the daughter no more. The son can't communicate with his daddy no more. The brothers can't communicate with each other. The sisters, nobody can communicate. The bloodlines is crossing up now. Everybody, you got clans of people now. Well, when I say bloodlines, they was all of the same bloodline, but now you got different tribes of people that speak different this, different that, different this, different that. Over time, you become alien of each other. I don't understand what they're saying. I don't know nothing about them. We ain't taking no chances. So now tribes are fighting against each other, right? So after the flood, the world starts off one color. The languages change. Then you come down to Genesis 25 and 25, where this black woman has a child named Esau, which is Yaakov, twin brother. Jacob came out of plain, man. It tells you Esau was born red. Esau begot red children. So now the world starts off black, languages change. You got a race of red people on the face of the earth now. Israel is not just the name of a country. Genesis 35 and 10, this man Yaakov, his name was changed by Yah from Yaakov to Yisrael. So this man Yisrael had 12 sons. They didn't have last names back then. This is why they were called Israelites. And really Yisrael, El is a substitution of Yah and Yahweh. So actually it's Yisrael. Yisrael. Have whatever however you talk. El is pronounced Yah at the end of that. So this man Yisrael had 12 sons. They were known as Israelites. And one of the son's name was Levi. This is why all of the sons of Levi were called Levites. They didn't have last names. Yahudah was one of the sons. Judah is the English way to say it. So Judah, the sons of Judah were known as the Jews. The Danites, they all brothers. So it don't matter if one person is with Judah or Levi, they all the same people. It's the Europeans that don't understand that considered every last one of them Jews. That's ignorant, because Judah couldn't even wage war unless he got permission from Levi, the priest. If you really want to know the order there. But before, we get into all of that. So, the world starts off one language, one color. The languages change with Nimrod. Esau is born red and begot red children. 2 Kings 5:27 is black man. Now, there was a disease that was called leprosy back then, and it was a curse upon certain people that did certain evil, unclean acts. And the way that these people were known is they became white spotted, like my teeth, white. You got white spots going on all over your flesh now. And in all of these different places that they had white spots, their hair would be yellow and thin. So imagine if you got an all white person and you got yellow hair, that's blonde. A blonde individual. That's now a Caucasian in the flesh. But what happened is 2 Kings 5:27, if you read the 5th chapter, 2 Kings, Gehazi deceived Naaman. When Naaman came from Syria to be cleansed of his leprosy, Elijah would not accept the gifts that Naaman brought down trying to pay for this blessing. Because everybody had heard about this Yah of Israel, this Yah of Moses who did X, Y, and Z to Pharaoh, and who was the blesser and who cursed so many nations for doing this. They want to know if this is real. And this man, this king from Syria named Naaman, he wanted to be cleansed of his leprosy. And he was willing to pay to be cleansed. And Elijah would not accept those gifts. He was like, no, you cannot pay for blessings. So when Naaman came down, instead of him paying to be cleansed, Elijah said, and you know, Elijah couldn't even put him being the priest and the prophet, he could not put himself before uncleanness and unclean people. So you had to talk to his servants before you can get to him. And the word came from Elijah for Naaman to bathe in the Jordan River 7 times. Now Naaman pissed off. I done came all the way down here. You gonna tell me I gotta take a bath in the river? What? But Naaman did it anyways. And the 7th time that he bathed, he became cleansed and back into his original color. His leprosy was gone. And he was so happy. It says that he bought servants, gold, all types of attire, had properties, land in different places that he wanted to give Elijah. And Elijah was like, I cannot accept it. Just return to your country and know that Yah is Yah. You will be a sign of a new lifestyle and belief for others to believe in. By the time Naaman gets halfway back to Syria, Gehazi, which is Elijah's right-hand man, ran after Naaman and lied. And at the time that he was lying, the Most High had shown Elijah what Gehazi was going to go do. And Gehazi told Naaman, said, my servant said, all is well if I could get those gifts if you were still willing to give them away. Naaman didn't think twice, gave it to him. Naaman headed back home. By the time Gehazi get back, Elijah meets him out at the front. Where has my servant been? Is this a time to receive gifts, offerings, servants, gold, all these different things, vineyards? And he said, because you committed this evil and this deceit, therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling unto you and your children, seed, descendants, forever. And it says that Gehazi walked out of Elijah's presence a leper as white as snow. So now you got a people who will forever, from this black man who was cursed in his flesh to be white, would be white in their flesh forever, with yellow thin hair, blonde, and would have other colors of hair, but they lepers in the flesh. They would be an unclean people. That was so until Christ came down. So when you go back to Adam and Eve before they gave birth to Cain, Abel, Seth, the two sisters. It says Eve was sitting out at the lake one day. It said it was hot. And it says Lucifer came up out of the lake with his host, singing songs to the Most High in heaven, and deceived Eve as if he were sent from Yah, and deceived her with the words that he spoke, that she would eat from the tree. And she ate from this tree. And we can't say it was an apple, orange, watermelon. We can't say what it was on this tree because it never spoke the fruit. But it says that she ate from the tree. And she deceived Adam to do the same thing. And after Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, it says that Lucifer now was able to transform himself into different forms of people. This was Lucifer. And it says that he was allowed to do torturous things to Adam and Eve now. He was allowed to put some punishment on them because of their disobedience to the Most High. And so out of all the torturous things that he's done to Adam and Eve, the Most High told Adam and Eve, before I even get into that, it talks about how when Adam became flesh, he was so tormented not to have been in his spirit, but to be flesh. He was so upset with this body that he's in now. He threw himself off a cliff thinking that he would kill himself. And the Most High brought him up out of that estate. Nope, you ain't finna go out like that. When nighttime came over him for the first time, it's pure black. They was in a cave now. Said that he wept in total misery because of this nighttime that we don't think is nothing because it's night to us. But it was such a punishment compared to what the heavens were in the garden for it not to have ever been nighttime. Now, they didn't have lights. They in the cave. It's pure black. They can't see nothing. Says that he beat upon his chest and hitting his head all on the cave walls, thinking that he would kill himself. Nope. Most High brought him up out of that. Nope. You ain't going out like that. It talked about how Lucifer wanted to kill Adam. Said that Adam and Eve was sitting under a mountain, under a hill-like mountain, and said that Lucifer was standing at the top and thought that he would push this rock down over on top of him, that it would roll down and smash him, and said when Lucifer pushed this rock came rolling down, and the Most High called it to be still when it got down to the bottom. And it became a shade for Adam and Eve out in the sun. That's how powerful the Most High is. Sometimes you don't even know what's going on. What the devil means for your bad, the Most High will turn it into your good. You might not even know you got enemies after you and things allowed to happen. Don't even know they lost their life. You don't even know you got these enemies. The Most High protects his own. But he allowed Lucifer to put some punishment on Adam and Eve. But it came down to the point where it says Adam, before they gave birth to Adam, before him and Eve gave birth to Cain and the rest of the children, it says Adam was making a sacrifice to the Most High. And Lucifer ran up behind him with a sharp-edged sword, a sharp-edged staff. And it says, stabbed Adam in his side. And out of his side came both blood and water. and said that Adam died. And it said Eve wept and wept and wept with such a sorrowful cry. The Most High came down and brought Adam out of that estate and told Adam and Eve, after he had brought Adam back alive, and said, I have allowed Lucifer and his host to punish you. The things that you went through and have experienced, these are the things that your children, generations under you, will do to each other. And in order for me, the Most High said, for him, in order for me to save man, I myself must be reckoned as one of the sons of man in order to save you. Now he was going to choose another angel, another being to be worshipped over him, like this modern day sun god worship of Christianity, where you worshiping the son of God over God. That's not what it was. That's not what he said. And this is in the revised Bibles, the altered Bibles of Christianity that they give you in today's time. But when you go back to the books of Eden, the Most High said, in order for him to save man, he himself must be reckoned as one of the sons of man. And he told Adam, I will come for you in 5.5 days. And the Most High went back into the heavens. And it said Adam cried. He was sorrowful, thinking that his life was coming to an end in 5.5 days. Now that Adam knows what it's like to die and, come back alive, Adam didn't want to die. He wasn't ready. He thought that the Most High was coming back for his life in 5.5 days. And when those 5.5 days was up, Yah came back down and told Adam, he said, the 5.5 days symbolize 5,500 years I will come down upon the earth. There is 5,500 years between Adam and Yahshua / Jesus. There's no such thing as 1,000,000 years ago X, Y, and Z happened. 15,000 years ago X, Y, and Z happened, because no person on the face of the American government with the highest degree that they have in college has ever taken a test in college and have answered, this was the name of a king and country that fought this king and country 13,000 years ago, and can line everything up from 15,000 years ago up to this date just with the lineage of kings from a specific country. You can't do it. So the atheists, the mind wipers, who have taken these scriptures away 1,000,000 years ago, and you believe this stuff simply because you are made to read books and get a passing grade, and because you worked according to what you were taught, because you worked hard to memorize certain things to get a passing grade. If somebody tell you that it's false, you don't want to accept it, because what you've worked hard to believe to get a passing grade, you was forced to accept this mark, this corrupted mind, to believe certain things just to get money. You can't buy, you can't do this, you cannot do this unless you mark through his corrupted mind. If that makes sense to some people. So in the books of Enoch, it tells you the earth would only abide 8,000 years, would be the end of creation. Would be the end of life on earth before everything goes back into the heavens. Now, here's the solid proof and how accurate that is. Now that we know there's 5,500 years between creation, Adam and Eve, and Christ, we are 2018 years under that. That puts us at 7.5 going to the 8th. And it tells you in the end, now I'm 36 years old. In the end, at the beginning of the end, which started with my parents' generation who are in their 60s, you will see a generation that will cuss their parents, which would be the beginning of sorrow. And the generation before me are the ones who cursed their parents that misled my generation with sex, prostitution, drugs, pimping, all this other garbage. The elders who are passing on, who's in their 80s, in their 90s, warned their children not to mess with drugs and alcohol that came out in the 70s and the 80s, and this party life that was in the 60s. They tried to keep these people away from it. They rebelled. They cussed their parents out. They cussed us out. Us. Now, I was blessed not to get cussed out in my home, so I'm speaking about people my age as a whole. They cussed our generation of children out. And this is why we're in the destruction that we're in, because of that generation. Now, there was a war that was spoken in the 8th chapter of Daniel, which would be in the end. If you know the signs of the fig tree, when you see the buds starting to bud out on the tree, you know that spring and summer is near. When you see the colors of the leaves starting to change and fall off, you know the end of the season. The winter is here, right? In the 8th chapter of Daniel, the last thing that you would see that would take place, you will see a goat rise from the west from across the whole face of the entire earth. And it said, he will come from the west and destroy from the air without touching the ground the kings of the Medes and the Persians. Now my nose is getting a little stopped up because the air conditioning is on. But when you get down into the 8th chapter of Daniel, it tells you the goat symbolized the realm of Greece. The Medes and the Persians, on the old biblical map, the Medes is Iraq and Syria, Persia is Iran and Afghanistan. The Masonic goat, the Baphomet, those who follow their old Egyptian voodoo god, Lucifer, who will come from the west on the face of the entire earth. It tells you after he destroyed the ram at the river, he was destroyed without human hands. In the 8th chapter of Daniel, he's described as a goat. Before he was described as a goat, he was the eagle in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy who would enslave Israel. So us who are the descendants of slaves that was brought from east to west, remember, if you go back into the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy, I will call a nation like unto an eagle to take you, who will not show favor to the old and to the young, a people with a language you will not understand, whom will scatter you from one end of the earth east, all the way to the other end west, and you will be taken in ships with yokes of iron around your neck, chains, as bondmen, slave men, and bondwomen, slave women, back to Egypt. Egypt and Israel is right next door on dry land. You don't travel on the ship right across the street to your neighbor's house. It was symbolic for 400 years slavery. The God of Israel was called Yah. That's why the slaves that came over were screaming out Kumbaya or Hallelujah, praises unto Yah. Come by Yah in time of distress. We need you. After Israel done went into idol worship, homosexuality done started conquering other nations for gain, the Most High allowed their enemies to come back on them. And when Solomon's son decided that he would kill the order of the priesthood of Levi, and take priests from the lineage of Judah is when the kingdom fell, because you have broke the order which kept you safe. And at the time that the covenant is passing from Israel, from Solomon's seed here, it forwarded down to Ethiopia, because Solomon had a son with Queen Makeda of Sheba, which is Ethiopia. And it tells you that he took his name was Menelik. He took the first sons of all Israel, all 12 tribes, and they went down to Ethiopia, who were the sun god worshippers. And when the queen stepped down, remember, she heard the wisdom of Solomon. It amazed her. And when this child got grown, he didn't want to rule Israel anyways. This is when he forwarded down to Ethiopia. Solomon had another son up here. Now, this is how the Most High worked. With this son that Solomon had with Makeda, as he's grown and has taken all these people down into Ethiopia, you've never seen a group of large number of white people move down to Ethiopia. You've never seen a white king in Ethiopia, because the Jews ain't white. Israel ain't white folks. That's that new stuff from colonization, from wars in today's time. A people who portray themselves as Jews and are not, just like written in Revelation, but they are the synagogue of Lucifer. But when Solomon had this son, Menelik, with Sheba, Solomon went astray after that. He went whoring with Pharaoh's daughters, and they turned Solomon into an idol worshiper, where Solomon started building idol gods. And it tells you in the Keber Nagast, Solomon caught a disease from them having sex. And it says that this disease was so unhealthy to Solomon's body, it sickened him into his deathbed. And it says that Solomon, as he was dying, an angel came down and stood at his bed. And Solomon asked this angel that he would pray to the Most High, that the Most High would heal him of his sickness. And the angel wouldn't do it. Solomon died of a sexual transmitted disease from Pharaoh's daughters. Solomon had a young son at that time who said, if you think, now that Solomon done went astray, he done started punishing people up there. There's a seed that he had that was good that had already left right before this happened. This child that took the throne from Solomon said to the people, if you think the punishment my father put on you was ruthless, you have no idea what I will do to you. And this kid is the one who put such a torture on these people. This is why so many of them left. And the kingdom broke up. 2 tribes stayed here and the rest of them fled. The Most High allowed all their enemies to come down on them now and destroy the Israel. Where you still got in Ethiopia this group that's here that had the same laws. They broke them. And that's why Ethiopia is a wasteland now. That's why they starving now. That's why they at the foot of the beast now, because they was even blessed to have all this pleasure. Man, Ethiopia and Sudan was one country. They done fought and done conquered people all the way up into the middle part of Africa, going all the way up the north to the Gold Coast, all the way on the way. This was all Israel. Now it's so many of them, they the number of the pebbles of the sand. That's how many of them it was. And the Most High wrote it and this European heart to be the destroyers of all that turn their backs on the Most High. Because when you start getting down into Aristeas, who said he wanted every book of genealogy in his library, when you start getting down into Alexander the Great, who's under Aristeas, they had a plan to come down and take this stuff that they heard that was going down in Egypt and Ethiopia and all of this stuff. They couldn't understand the language of these people. So they sent whores down into the country who had sex with some of these folks. They couldn't speak each other's language. They had sex. I can't explain how it happened. They had sex. When the child is born, the child can understand what both the mother and the father is saying. But this European knew exactly what he was doing. He studied war. This was the devil now. I can't explain how they was doing what they was doing. They know how to make weapons and stuff. They came down, learned the language, conquered these people, took those writings back into Europe, which had the writings that the fallen angels left on the wall and all that stuff. After they done conquered Pharaoh and all that, done came down and conquered Israel and kicking everybody else in their behind, them kids that they had with the children that those whores that they sent down before they would attack, by the time those children got grown and was able to read what was on these walls, they took this stuff back to Europe, translated it. The Europeans said, well, we can't let all of our people know about this. We got to keep it a secret amongst our society, a secret amongst us. Some of the stuff you don't learn until you become a Mason or an Eastern Star. I'm not one. I just know history. I know exactly how it happened. I would love to have known what those words were, but these words that Solomon and Moses possessed and the prophets possessed, these are the things that went back into Europe and they learned how to alter it and make other things happen. The mixing of roots, of making different chemicals, they've enhanced this stuff. So what we call technology all came from roots. The liquids that they use to make glass all come from mixing roots. Different medicines that we take all come from mixing roots. This is what they want, like uranium and all this stuff. All this stuff come from mixing roots. They know the theory of it. This is what they studied. The astrologies of the things that the fallen angels had and things that the prophets had, they put all this stuff together, and this is how they're able to tell what's going on here, what's going on there. Until now, they got aircraft that can sit up so high, they know how thick this cloud is, how much rain it's going to have in it before it goes here. They got radars on the bottom that can tell which way the wind is going. They can predict the weather because they've studied this stuff for so long. So when you start getting into the beast being destroyed, now that we know that the eagle enslaved Israel, which is us, which is why they fear us, which is why they will not empower us as a whole, because they know the bloodline. They know how powerful people that we are, and that we are said to return back to that someday. That's going to be the fulfillment of the scripture. When the entire house of black Israel in the West goes back to the worship of Yah and Yahashua as a house, it was a test to Lucifer. No matter how much deceit you have caused through the generations, my word will forever be, and my people will come back. And this is why Lucifer fights hard through the people, through deceit. This is why them walls was there, to keep these things from happening. But when you start getting off into the 8th chapter of Daniel, where the eagle became the goat, if you take eagle's wings or an eagle and put it on top of a goat, you get the Baphomet. This is his country. In Revelation, he's described as a red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. So if you take a marker and you draw a line around the entire continent of North America on a map, it's the shape of a perfect dragon. And as the 8th chapter of Daniel says that the goat would be destroyed without human hands, when you get into Revelation 18:21, there was a movie that came out called Armageddon. It was about this stone they was trying to blast out of the sky. They know what's going on. These are the same people that created atheism, Wiccan, and all this other bullshit that you are not supposed, that you're supposed to be distracted by, so that you don't know the truth of the scripture. In the 18th chapter, the 21st verse of Revelation, it says, "And the Most High told an angel to take a large stone like millstone, and with violence throw the great whore down, that she may be heard no more, and that she would be under the waters until the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah, until the return of Yah." So when we start breaking down the word Emmanuel, E is actually Yah, L is Yah, and can even be pronounced Yahweh, because Yah is the short form of Yahweh. The YHVH is the JHVH in Jehovah. That was the transliteration that they didn't want King James to translate, but he put the J on top of the Y and translated the Va instead of a Wa. This is what he did. And they didn't want him to do that. They wanted to keep it as far away as possible. But it was Yad He Vav He, was the letters Yahweh. So amongst us will be God, is what they said in the scripture, in the book of the prophets. Amongst us. Now in the English translated text, you might see, "And his name shall be called Emmanuel." It was Yah. Elohim is Yaohi, because El is Yah. Yayom, Elyon, it's Yayom, Most High. Shaddai, El Shaddai, is Yah-Shaddai. Jehovah Jireh is Yahweh Yireh, or simply Yah-Yireh. I am that I am. It's no such thing as I am that I am. It was pronounced at the burning bush, Yah Asher, Yah, where some people in the New Testament, I think it's in Revelation somewhere like that, I can't remember where, it's spelled Ahayah. Ahaya. It's Yah. This is where this stuff comes from. And it takes years of studying to understand this without everything I just said to you. I was the sacrifice to learn, so that a lot of people don't have to go through what I went through, the stages of confusion, the being called crazy, the being blackballed in many different places that I was blackballed in years ago, the embarrassments that I went through, different stages that I had to go through to learn these things. I was just one of those whom I didn't know at that time. Everybody is not strong enough to take this stuff. I somehow found enough favor. I guess the Most High knew I was strong enough to go through these stages, and that I would have a mind that could understand things that would be thrown at me that would be very confusing, but would be able to filter it out. Where sometimes on a quest for knowledge, you can be thrown certain things. Your eyes can discover certain things that will confuse your mind. And everybody can't go through that. But I did. It took years. I think I got started on this stuff I was well versed with the New Testament when I was 13. I was already calling pastors out. I was calling pastors out when I was 13. And when I was 15, I was so bad in school. I was so bad in school, they wouldn't let me back in public school, so I had to get my GED. I'm 15 years old. 15 and 16. Yeah, I was 15 or 16. Out of school with my GED. I was a drummer, and I heard some music inside this reggae club in the neighborhood. Like, man, what's going on up in here? I ain't never heard this before. I went in. I saw all these different books. They didn't want me in there. Like, man, you can't come in here. You too young. You too young. But the old head, they all went to school with my mom and my uncles. And when the only thing that got me in this club, the only thing that got me in this club, where these books were, where I discovered the lost books, was me playing drums. I started sitting in with the band. I was over there every single day reading. The old school Turk put this book in front of me. Said, you like to read this. They had different people that was going to Jamaica, Africa, different places, got artifacts and all types of stuff. I'm 15 and 16 years old, getting knowledge from the old heads that knew it. This wasn't happening to average 15 and 16-year-olds. They still in school getting this brainwash. I didn't do my homework, but I read. That's how I was able to pass the GED test. They just wouldn't let me back in school because I was bad. I was terrible. I don't even think that I don't even think it was I was bad. I was just that type that I was just somebody you just love to hate. Just naturally, you just love to hate me for whatever reason. I was dark skinned, so people picked on me because I was dark skinned. That's what it was. Because I was dark skinned, I was singled out. Now these people can't be black enough. I went through the name calling, Blackie this, Blackie that, oil smut. I went through all that, and I was able to rank back too. So don't think that I just took it because I ranked back. I was real little. So I went through the being picked on stage. I ain't that little no more. I would knock your ass out now. But I was very little. And being that I guess that's the way the Most High had me to be singled out away from foolishness. Because he wanted me not with that. To be singled away from that big crowd of foolishness. Where I was in a place of solitary. And the walls I was isolated in was walls of knowledge. Right there amongst murder, thieves, drug dealers. The worstest neighborhood in the whole city had this one building that had correct knowledge in it. And that's where I were from the time I was 15 until the time I was 20. And all the knowledge that I gained, I was already well versed with the New Testament. I was now starting to jump into the old, what I considered then an Old Testament. But it didn't line up until I got my hands, or was presented, the lost books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden. Everything that I believed, that I was told I was crazy for believing, there's a book by an author named Shadrach. Shaddrock. I was 15, reading the same thing I had always started quoting to people. And I knew I wasn't crazy when I saw it then. So I was able to have a conscious mind. I was raised in the church. I left the church. Got my hands on a gun. Got my hands on a few drugs. That didn't work out too well. That didn't stop me from hanging out and thugging either. I just didn't sell drugs that much afterwards. It just didn't work out. But I understand. I know what a gram is. I know what a key is. I done seen it. I done had my hands on all of it. You know what I'm saying? I was just blessed to not have gotten caught up in that lifestyle. I got friends that were shot in front of me. I've been shot at. I have shot at people. I went through the stages of church and street. I understand both sides of the field. I understand exactly what Moses went through. He went through foolishness first. Then he was introduced to knowledge. I saw knowledge first. Didn't understand the foolishness. Then I saw the foolishness and like, man, this shit is crazy. And I went back to my first mind, my first estate, which is not church, but spiritual growth and communication with the Most High. Because I am a spiritual person, not religious. It keeps me in conflict with religious people. Then it keeps me in conflict with atheist people. Because both the religion and atheist is wrong. Religious people only operate off what they see the church do. People in the church, what the organization does. Spiritual people, we operate off conviction of right and wrong. Again, church people operate off what they see people in a building do. Spiritual people, we operate off conviction of right from wrong. So I hope out of this hour or something that I've been talking to you, that you can take something that I've said and do the research on it and find these things for yourself. So I've taken you from the beginning of creation through your races to the end. Shalom.